welcome once again to Modern Guitar Harmony. And today we have Stelios Mihas, who's been recording some of Mick's early guitar pieces. They're available on YouTube right now, and we'll put a link to them in this piece. And we'll chat a little today about how you first got involved with the recording the Goodrick pieces and your studies with Mick back in the early 90s, I think it was it?
No.
Later. I'm making you older than you are.
Yeah. It's it's good. I like that. No, I started with him in 2005.
Okay.
I was actually
21st century.
I was doing classical studies before that, and probably that there is a connection to that and how I came to the pieces, to the early pieces of Mick. So maybe that was the confusion. But I was in Boston from 2005 to 2008. And that's when I think the book was printed then. I think it was in print a little after the almanacs, a few years. I don't remember. No,
yes, you're right.
I think the almanacs were already there when I arrived in Boston. They were already at the bookstore. So yes, I picked up a copy then. That was at the end of my studies with Mick, and. It was, they blew my mind. At that point, I opened it up. I saw the music, and I was like, okay, we put this on the side, but it was in my mind. And then later on, when I was already in New York, I started, reading through them, getting my hands around them, and it was a way different. A way for me to play and relate to this music. So it took me a second, but I think it really stayed with me. Those harmonies, those sounds, those fingerings. I was very curious and very intrigued to really get to them. So maybe it was like 2013, 2014 that I started going through them without thinking of something, without thinking of a project. Mm-hmm. So by itself, it became a thing for me where I kept working on them, and then by 2016, I had a first draft of recordings that I sent to Mick, and he was pleased, and he advised me to go to some other songs in the later pieces. And then whatever, New York, just being busy. Yep. Couldn't get myself to really get the project going because I realized I had to really devote to get to be fair, to the music. And the pandemic came. I guess for a lot of us, it was a time where we got some projects out of the way or going. So I was in Athens. I had access to a studio, and I managed to record them in a way that I was like happy with.
You've made a lovely job of them. They sound really excellent. I'm sure anyone else to steer to them from this interview will get a surprise at the professional quality and the focus that you get from piece to piece. We've got the 9 early pieces, and you make the connections very strong between each piece to piece, and it's as if they take a journey right through from the first piece to the last one.
Yes, that's very true. Thank you for noticing that. I feel they are related, although there might be the references that you can find in there might be a few centuries apart from one to the next, and there's so many things from all over the place, all over the the tradition, the trajectory of time from music. You can find in there, and they are so well blended. I find them to be timeless, to be honest. I find that music to be without a reference of point in time. I love this music, yes, but besides that, I think it's just great music,
Yep, agreed. Do you have a favorite?
Man, they keep changing.
Yeah,
I don't. I used to be favoring number 7 and number 2.
Uh-huh.
I think because there's so much in there where your personal journeys at the time, you might, gravitate to the one or the other.
Yeah.
But it's very hard to prioritize. I feel like all of them are genius, and they have, in terms of harmonic language, in terms of making an artistic statement, or in terms of just blending so many different things in a such a profound way. They are just so unique. Plus, they are just a treasure for the guitar. There's so many things in there that are, at least for me, back then when I was like starting, it was like, wow, I wasn't even aware this could exist.
Yeah.
And that's after studying with me, after like being exposed to the to the almanacs, after being exposed to the factorial rhythm, or his teaching. I feel just seeing this, a lot of these materials, or a lot of that train of thought being on a piece of paper, is just very unique. At least it was for me, very eye-opening, and still is. Yes.
Our plan with this interview is to talk generally about the pieces, so in case anyone's wondering, when we get to specifics, we'll keep that separate and do a little bit of specific analysis from examples, score examples. But my experience with these pieces is that the fingering choices were amazingly complex with some of the pieces. There were so many choices, even with very elementary first position, or the obvious fingerings that you might use on classical guitar. Take them to electric guitar, they get even further. There's even more options. But did you work systematically at your fingerings and write them on your parts to get the scores ready for recording?
Well, it's something that happened naturally with me. I did write some fingerings in the beginning, but then I found myself, just as I was going through the pieces again and again, to gravitate toward other ways to phrase.
Yeah.
Let's mention at this point, for maybe viewers who don't know, that those pieces have no fingerings, have no tempo, dynamic markings. The rhythm can be sort of interpreted as it is. It is fairly simple.
One or two don't even have a time signature.
Excuse me?
One or two don't even have a time signature.
Yes.
Yeah, which is peculiar and perhaps not an accident.
Mm-hmm.
It's not
actually,
just
a big part for me playing them was like to discover what they are, at least for me,
Yeah.
What does it represent? What is the picture here?
Yeah.
I mean, some are more obvious than others. We're going to talk about that. But yes, the fingerings, I think they just came over time. Like from making my round again and again through the pieces, they somehow settled into what I guess I still play all those fingerings to them. But that's a very interesting process, and I think this music is very giving, is very generous with that, because it actually calls for you to get in there, and it's such deep and beautiful music. So I think it's that's one of the greatest gifts that I think one can get from studying it. You've studied them too, I
have, and I'm amazed that they're all such condensed pieces of intense musical information. Nothing lasts more than 2 pages. And they're all, or even a page. Some of them are 2 on 1 page.
Right.
Yeah, I was thinking towards the end of the full set of pieces, the 36, we get a couple of 4-page pieces, longer works. But the condensed nature of these, there's just so much information in 24 bars.
Yes, it is very condensed, and at the same time, it feels like um, it's more experimental in a way. I don't know if experimental is the word, but in terms of the search, it's, Mick wrote them when he was 22.
Yeah.
I think 67, 71. That's probably 22 to 26. And then once the later pieces start, you see a different trajectory in the language and in the writing, and by the end or by the middle of those pieces, you see a language that then you feel like that this is it, But in the first pieces, it seems that he's playing and experimenting with so many different things, and it's just amazing to witness that and play it. I think they're very special. They hold a very special place for me. From the beginning, they were my favorites, my most intriguing pieces of music in there. I didn't choose to do them because it was a shorter work,
And of course, if the 9 pieces hang together the way they clearly do, as you play them as a set, they would enter the classical guitar repertoire like that, and they would make a nice, substantial 15, 20-minute program item, which I think that's an important thing to point out too.
Yes, it seems we never talked about this with Mick on. We never really talked the classical guitar with Mick. I used to go with an electric nylon guitar sometimes in the lesson, and we used to play with. I used to play that. He played electric, but we never really discussed technique or, apoyando, tirando, anything like that. But on the forward, the studies of Soar are mentioned.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna get in detail, but the first piece, there is a kind of obvious similarity to it, or maybe a direct influence.
Yeah.
And they do sound to me great on the nylon. They do sound to me like they really exist on the nylon guitar. And obviously you can tell also by the later pieces that his awareness of the tradition and the 3-part writing is like very extremely solid. So I wouldn't I would think these pieces can be part of the classical guitar repertoire. And they offer insights into the instrument that someone it's a very weird, but I would say that most composers who have not dealt with the guitar in that depth, it's hard to get to some of those moments that you get in there with those pieces.
Yes.
So I think they're very unique. Besides, and that is besides the artistic value of them, besides the genius in them.
Yeah. I think the functionality of them as repertoire will be apparent as time goes on. I'm looking forward to hearing other people play these and hear other angles on the repertoire, and that's part of our project really now, to get this out into the public domain a little further and see what people do with it. I will acknowledge people have recorded some fragments of the 36 pieces. There's not a full set yet, and we're looking towards putting that right, hopefully. It's an exciting project. We're looking into possibilities at the moment, so we'll dangle that carrot and hope that someone thinks, yes, we've got to get that moving, But we're working on it, so we hope we might have some news next year on that, the two of us.
Yes, we are.
without going into the specifics, there's a strong feeling. I'm hearing some of the Julian Bream recordings that I grew up with. Mick was maybe 15 years older than me, and the story goes he heard a lot of Bream for an important period of his creative development, shortly after the Gary Burton trio work he did, and I'm hearing Benjamin Britten's Nocturnal quoted. There's a lot of Fernando So, there's a lot of Francisco Tárrega, and there's a lot of other 20th century classical guitar vocabulary mixed in with the 12-tonish, Mick calls it 12-tonish elements in the early pieces. And
as well as the orchestral composers, I think there's
yes, there's a Stravinsky nod at one point, I'm sure. I'm certain that's a Stravinsky.
Stravinsky or Bartók, yes.
Yeah, and we've spotted some Bartók too.
That energy is there too, yes.
Yeah, I'll put a little appeal into this and say if anyone recognises anything that they're sure about, please tell us, because obviously we haven't got copyright on this this quotation and reference. And in a way, that's a jazz element, the borrowing and quoting. I know there's a tradition all the way back to Handel and beyond of composers borrowing, but it's the affectionate quotation which becomes something new, creative's an interesting topic.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And by that, it also happens in a way that is very well integrated into its own music. It's never like the whole, I think 9 pieces are their own thing at the same time, which is amazing.
Yeah. So tell me a little specifically about your own recording of these. What guitar are you using for a start? Who made your guitar? And
at this point, I'm not using my guitar because I am in Athens at this point.
Ah, okay. I thought you were.
I'm not using my guitar. My guitar is here in New York. This is a Yipas guitar.
Ah, okay.
Pavlos Yipas is a builder, a luthier in Athens, in Greece. He's a little older now, and he's been making guitars for, way before I was there in that scene. And a lot of them are, it's a very nice instrument. What I remember from this instrument is how equal it is to play in all the different places on the neck. I really liked playing Bach on that instrument, for example. And this was the one I had access to. It was my good friend Alexis. He let me have it for the time and make the recording. The recording was made in my studio. I did the production. I had the chance to, actually make a few experiments with the sound, and until I figured out what I liked at that moment, and I'm pretty happy with it still. Of course, now I would make changes, but that's like only normal. It's been a couple of years.
Yeah. And yes. What microphone?
I used a space pair of Neumann's, the KM184.
Okay.
And I used a room mic. I used an old ribbon, old stereo ribbon from Bang & Olufsen. It's called the BM5. That is in a Bloomline setting.
Understand. Yeah, that's cool.
So that was like a little further. It's not a big room. It's not a huge room, but it was like further out, and it helped me get some ambience in there, which I really liked. It gives a little bit of a velvet smoothness on top of the condenser sound. So I was happy with that at that time. Now I'm experimenting, as preparing for the rest. I'm experimenting with other combinations, and other stereo images. Well, we'll see. This is kind of a ongoing process, I would have liked to be in a bigger room to be honest. But I think, you know, I did. I'm really happy with what happened at the time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Just like looking into the future, might be nice to be in a bigger room for the pieces.
Oh, great. That's a good introduction we've got to them generally. Shall we take a short break and talk about a few of the pieces in specific terms? We'll pull a few scores up and we can have a second session. So I'll say thank you now, and we've got a second half of this set of interviews to do, and we'll see you very shortly. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mick.
Right. Hello, welcome back to part 2 of my chat with Stelios Mihas, talking about the 9 early pieces by Mick Goodrick. And we've got some screenshots to share with you here, just of examples from the 9 early pieces. So let's see if I can pull the first one up here for you. And this is from piece number 1. And we've got the intro to piece number 1 here, just showing a lovely Fernando Soul-like introduction to the pieces. We got 3-part harmony.
Yes, 3-part harmony. Just beautiful guitar writing. You said there you have something for the melody. You have a quote from the melody, maybe. But in general, this piece is so much made for the guitar. I feel also the key. It shows the deep awareness of the tradition and the instrument, and you know, the format of the studies, I feel, was also very indicative. You know, that this was sort of framed on the source studies as a work, although the rest of the work doesn't. You know, it accelerates in terms of language and moves into so many different places. The first one is really, you know, staying until maybe the end. Into the tradition, but also, you know, I think we're gonna see in the whole work that it seems that Mick is not worried about just doing it his own way. You know, he's not trying to play into any rules. You know, the 12 tones. You know, maybe there's 11 of them here, or, you know, 10 of them there. You know, it's not something strict. The fugue-like movements or canons are not strict. They are there to you know, to serve the music. So I feel in that way this is also like very important and valuable for the instrument. And, you know, if we go actually, the form I believe is also similar to the number 1 study. So it's like
I think so.
An A and an A prime.
Yeah.
The A prime moves very fast. I mean, at least in this case, the A prime, you think you're gonna hear sort of a repetition, but you're very quickly moved into a different terrain, and things start expanding harmonically. You know, you start traveling through the years a little bit there, and you get to this beautiful coda there.
I'll bring the coda up. I think this is the coda. See if I can switch windows. That's the one. So there's your coda.
So
could you just play that on your guitar for us? Have you got your guitar hand? Could you play that on your guitar for us?
Yeah, I think so.
That'd be great. There's such a lovely set of descending sevenths.
Yes, okay, I see. And here. I slowed down there so we can hear the harmonies real well, because I feel this is maybe the first part where you're like, okay, something's going on here, you know. And it sort of gives you a hint of what's about to come.
I apologize for my handwriting on this as well. This is mine, not yours, and I want people to know that. And the G7's wrong. It should be G major 7th at the third
yeah.
But
mine looks similar, so
right.
You know. But yes, you know, this is something that probably Sor wouldn't do. I don't know if we can agree on that.
Yes, definitely. Chromatic semitone ending is
chromatic semitone ending. Yes, exactly. And you have sort of a, you know, or no, sorry. You have like a little hint there of this, but it moves on the G. You know, it could be interpreted as such. There is a movement here. There's a few things going on together. You can see it in one way, you can see it another way. At the same time, you know, this is just like, I think for everybody playing the guitar, this is such a genius move, you know? You know, very chromatic, but at the same time, very harmonic.
There's almost a touch of Jimi Hendrix there in that.
Exactly. This, you can hear so many things, and it's in that framework of the source study. So you know, the A prime in this one very quickly starts going somewhere else. There's the idea of the voice leading, which it's very strong here, and you know, we know how much important that actually was. Years later, or you know what I mean, through his work throughout. So that's like a, you know, very early existence of that, you know, interest. So yeah, I think this is a little gem down here in the ending. Wonderful piece.
As well as the musical content and the enjoyment of playing them, there's also something quite instructive about hearing those voices and bringing them out in fingerstyle right-hand technique. So the musicality it demands to get those middle voices to be smooth and clear. It's almost instructive just simply by playing it. It leads you through.
Yes, I think it expands you. It expands your playing. You know, you have, in order to get those voices to sound the way they're supposed to sound, it's very informative.
And in versions, we've got all of those chords with non-root position voicings. You've got the second inversion C minor in the first bar of the last line, and then you've got a third inversion A7, third inversion A flat major 7. Focusing back into the G major.
Exactly.
What happens on piece number 2 is very interesting, because from this strongly harmonic vocabulary that we've got in more conventional harmonic ideas, even with this kind of journey from 1820 classical guitar to 1970 Boston, 1967 Boston, on piece number 2 we get something that's completely different again. And yet at the same time, we're getting them quite linked up. If I can pull this screen up, I'll never make a PowerPoint presentation. Here we go. And if I share the screen on this one, come on, I can't do that yet. It'll only be a second. That's it. Got it, I think. And here's the last bars of piece number 2. The opening bars, sorry, excuse me.
Opening bars, actually, yes.
Yeah.
The openings and the last ones, because yes, this piece has sort of a meanwhile in the story. It seems like it doesn't start in the beginning. It starts actually towards the end, and then you see, because that theme that we see here, this the quarter note theme, which, I don't know, it's kind of E, Aeolian, no, yes, you know, it plays that borderline.
Yeah, I'm hearing E Phrygian sort of dominant or something. like that with that. The E flat as a D sharp.
Definitely transforms.
Yeah.
In the beginning, it sounds like yes, this you know we could. This is the beauty of this, because when you first start, it sounds like a one.
Yeah.
You know, but then you very quickly get taken out of there, and you see, okay, things are a little more complicated here in terms of.
Once the triads on the top line.
Yes,
Yeah.
all this. Yes, upper structure triads over a theme that gravitates towards a big E.
Yeah, yeah. Which is important. Yeah.
That's where the Phrygian vibe comes in later.
Yeah, yeah.
Which is completely, taken apart, like when the chord becomes a stacked fifths chord, and has this Lydian flavor to it. So we can talk about this for hours. It's so pretty. There's so many things happening here.
One little thing that we've talked about a lot is we had a big discussion about that final A in the middle of the last chord with the fermata over it on line 1, and we decided that it was an A flat. So I haven't marked it up on this part yet. So we've got a few. This is what we're doing at the moment with the plans for the second edition. We're looking at this thing under a microscope, this artifact that we have in front of us, and we've got the errata pages, but we've also found one or two things that we kind of really can argue a lot about and discuss. We agree on this one completely.
Yes, I think the idea was
it's not an A diminished, it's an A flat.
It's not an A diminished because all the chords on the top are either minor or major triads. So I think it would feel weird there. You're here. I mean, within the context, this makes more sense than this. I mean, I don't know. Yes, the more you question it, the more you go.
Yeah.
But if you play. This makes more sense when you hear the phrase.
Yeah. Isn't that beautiful?
It is super pretty, this one, yes.
And even the first chord, piece number 2, first chord, C major 7th, root position, because that bass note's only second time on a repeat. So exactly. we've got a chord 4 almost from the G of the first piece. So something's moving, brightening,
yes,
changing. And we're not in C major, but or C Lydian even. It's stranger than that. We're hinting at C Lydian in the first bar, but we're off on the second bar. There's all sorts happening. So
it's very interesting because on the second time around, this sounds like a flat 6 chord. I mean, all those relationships are very of the moment.
Yeah.
It won't sound like a traditional flat 6 chord.
And flat 6 in the key of E.
Yes.
Yeah, and what you're getting at then, we've got this story running through this whole set of 9 pieces, and that E major target is a really big sort of long-term goal for this whole sequence of pieces. And we've got it hinted at here with the bass notes in the introduction even, and there's lots and lots of clues. We've got this amazing bar, second last bar of the second line here, with that descending F down to low E. The bass just underneath the coda sign, bar before and bar after the coda sign. That's almost a direct quote from the Benjamin Britten Nocturnal that Julian Bream recorded a few years earlier than this piece was written. It was recorded around about 65 and Mick's composing these late 60s. So it was very fresh, very new.
And also very, this piece was played everywhere at that point. It was a very
of course.
Piece.
Yeah. And that descending bass note is exactly the same rhythmically, and dang, daga, daga, dang, dang, dang. Sorry about my singing. And there's a lot going on there. It's very, very interesting material.
Again, I feel it's very important to or like the Bartok or Stravinsky harmonies that might come. But I think all those things are very important to be said. That is said that you kind of have to dig in the score. If you just hear the music, you won't hear those things.
Yeah,
they are very well made into like one very special piece of music.
Incorporated, absorbed, and nested.
Yes,
here.
Exactly.
That's it. I'll bring the next piece up and see what we've got. I think we've got something from piece 3, and same thing again here. What's this little delight? Here we go. Is that the right one? That's the end of.
Oh yes, that's the that's piece number 3.
Yeah.
Which is the playful one, let's say.
Yeah. Yeah.
That piece is in G. Let's. I don't know if we agree that is a piece in G.
I believe you.
Between G and G minor.
Okay. Yeah, we've certainly got G minor and D7 there, or D.
Yes, and then it's. I think we're bringing this up because of the chords that are coming after that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this is something that we see a lot in this piece. This kind of chromatic language based on triads, but at the same time, there's some chromatic counterpoint happening here. And a lot of chromatic lines. Let's say, I mean, this is very obvious. It's on the same line on the last bar here, bar 4.
Yeah.
And, yes.
Yep.
So we have this line, or on the top we have.
Yeah.
We have all those combinations happening through triads, so through sounds that are very common to us in the guitar, brought on by inversions.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is a lot of the material that happens in the books of Mick, but you see this application here, and if you see it within the piece, it's just mind blowing to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, where is that? Yes. So we see there's a chromatic language here happening.
Yeah.
And the phrasing, the odd meters, they all bring this phrase into a very... This took me a while to figure out how to phrase, to be honest. I didn't know how to place it.
Yeah.
But I feel this is like... this is also some language that we see in the later pieces.
Yes.
And I feel this is important. It seems that some of the experimentation maybe that was going on in the early pieces, just like this is some of the materials that stayed throughout the work.
Yeah. Yep. And we've got more. And we've observed in a few conversations that as soon as we start looking at these, we find new things again.
Yes, there's so much in there.
So many times we've talked about these now that there's something new happening. Is that the right piece? I think it is. How's that?
That's the last line of number 4, yes.
Great, so we're in the right order. Yeah.
We see a similar, this is a little more diatonic, let's say. But we see
a great example of a drop 2 and a drop 4 voicing there on the first chord.
Yes. I thought we had the line before that too, or I don't know if we have it.
Oh, I'll have a look. I'm not sure.
I mean, it doesn't matter. It's basically a little, it's you can see more of that phrase. It doesn't really matter.
No,
this is like another way where you have those spaced out voicings. They work together in a chromatic way.
Yeah.
it's more evident in the line before that, but this is the ending of it. This is such a wonderful piece. I think it's on the recording. You can see where it comes from.
And just the choice of chords here. This is my fingering on them again. Please ignore the pencil marks. But we've got the C major seventh in the first bar. We've got a F over B flat at the 4/4 bar, and then we've got a B flat major seventh dropping to an A add 2 sus4 resolving to an A major, and it's just such a nice. Again, we've got that thing that you demonstrated before with the descending chromatic thing in piece 1, just a different version of it, if you like, different voicings, but the same kind of settling feeling in that.
Definitely, it's a very settling feeling there. Yes.
Yeah.
And these with this one, you see some chromaticism in the melody that is supported in the chords in a more diatonic way, and you even have like augmented seconds and stuff like that that sort of get hidden in the harmony. It's marvelous. It's like in the previous line. Yeah.
And we were talking about these being small pieces, but they're not inconsequential. They're absolute gemstones in terms of the detail in them and the amount of working that's gone into them. So there's a huge amount of care and attention to detail from bar to bar going on in these. There's very little repetition of the same idea. It's a working out of ideas every time.
I don't think there's one. I mean, besides some written repetition, there's no other repetition. There's a very few written ones. I'm saying there's like some double bars, some... Yeah, we get repeat signs, but we don't get much repetition of material. And here's a great idea. We've got these whole tones here. We've taken the end of section 1 of the next piece. I think this is it. Yeah. Oh, this is 7.
Yeah. So we're jumping around a little. Can we say something about this still? Because it's the whole tone scale, I think, isn't it? So not whole tone, excuse me. It's the 12-tone scale.
It's a 12-tone, yes. Yeah. And I think it's a 12-tone, and then it's almost a 12-tone,
Yeah, maybe not quite 12,
Yeah. Then there is like the, obviously the 3 open strings of the guitar that are accommodating that chromatic ascending line.
So not quite 12-tone. It sounds 12-tone when you hear it, and then you look closely, and there's no A in the first bar, and there's 2 C's in the second bar. And there's a playfulness to that almost.
Yeah.
It sounds right.
It
sounds
really sounds 12-tone to me, Yeah. But and then there's a lot of clusters in that and it's done. I would say that the whole energy of this piece is kind of playful and light in a way.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting the way those lines are happening on the guitar. I think it's hard to write like that and still have a piece written for the guitar. Yeah, we've got the 3 open strings in the final 3 bars, and then that bizarre chord on the end, the G chord with the flat, strongly in the bass there. Yes, so we have in this line repeats in triplets later on. And the bizarre chord, the cluster chord is enriched. Yeah. There's a progression to this. It's just wonderful. I'll play that last chord for you because it's easy, but it's not easy to hear. It's perfect, that. Yes. And then it comes after all this. Yeah. It comes after all this chromaticism. You get this emptiness. Yeah. And those clusters end up sounding. The contrast is just amazing. Plus, there's a lot of new chords. A lot of for me, this was like a very informative piece. And the ending line of that is just wonderful. And is that the harmonics? Is that the one with the? No, that's number 6. Oh, okay, we've jumped over number 6. I'm sorry. Is the one that is similar to the chords we saw in number 3. We'll leap back to number 6 if that's all right. I think I've got that. That's it. Great. Here we go.
this is yet another guitar-driven kind of acknowledgement, a little nod. It's a very, very fast passage of harmonics, all on open string harmonics, 7th fret, 5th fret, 12th fret, and rapid fire. They go across the strings really quickly in the style of Villa-Lobos's etudes, perhaps, and various other composers since Villa-Lobos. But it's a new and different way of doing it, and it's very beautiful, very effective. I won't try to sight read that. I have played it a while ago. It's a while since I played this. But are you comfortable with it to just demonstrate it slowly, or
maybe
that might be
some
useful?
of it. I haven't played that in a while.
That's something like that, isn't it?
The whole interesting thing with this piece is that I think it's an a Mixolydian piece, and it has all this big air to it.
Yeah. So these are like the Lenny Bro harmonics, where you alternate 7th and 12th fret.
Yes.
Yeah, that's right. I remember now. Yeah.
Yes, I think that's
I
the idea.
I can hear it in my head now. Yeah.
And it's brilliant, and it's like you said, it's really written for the guitar. You know, this is like you.
Yeah. But he produces
It reminds me of the Villa-Lobos in some ways.
Yeah.
And
But a different tonality, a different modal feel to it entirely. Harmonically different.
a lot of use of the open strings, and it totally gravitates towards the low E. But then it's a piece that is a major piece.
And again, A chord with a B in the bass for the final chord. So we've got another chord with the second in the bass, like the previous piece.
Yes.
It's a major second instead of a minor second, but it's kind of the same idea, a little bit of logical thread pulling there, maybe. Yeah.
And you see this is a game between those two. The whole piece, I feel, is a game between those two chords.
Yeah. Yeah.
With mathematical ways, or just like different ways of phrasing those chords and putting lines in between them, and it develops into these harmonics.
Yeah, we've got that beautiful word playing. There's a lot of musical play going on.
Definitely. Yeah. Yes.
And a quick explanation, we're not putting up the whole score for each one of these at the moment. We're in process of editing a second edition, preparing a second edition for release. So we're using the first edition at the moment. We'll have a new and corrected edition with some additions and some extra material, we hope, within the next year, hopefully sooner than that. So there's quite a few plans afoot to have this music in the public domain and available through the Modern Guitar Harmony website, we hope. And there's some nice things afoot with scores in various forms from the Mick Goodrick estate. So it's exciting stuff. So jumping forward to piece number 8, I think we've got an example from that as well. So let's just check, is this the one? I don't think that's come up yet. I'll stop in this time. That's the theme from piece number 8, I think.
Yes.
Am I right?
That's the beginning of it.
Yeah.
This is one of the most interesting pieces harmonically, because it really plays between chromaticism and diatonicism in a way that is just genius, and I feel it becomes a trademark of Mick later on. And this has a sort of a fugue. What do you think? Do you think it's it reminds us of a structure of a fugue? No, I mean, it's a short piece, right?
Yeah.
But the way the motif comes in there's two other iterations. The third one is way more free. The second one is pretty solid, starting on the 5th with a different harmonization, you know?
Yeah.
And the third one is just going off into a cadence you cannot foresee, which leads us into a second part that is kind of an orchestral part. You might think like this is an interlude. Where are we now? You know,
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
really doesn't. It's not reminiscent of what was going on before that. In the end, I feel it blends in such a nice way.
Could you play that for us, please? That phrase.
Which one? The last one?
Just the phrase from the sea.
Phrase we have here.
With the bars,
So
yeah.
this is like, yes. You see, so there is like a C minor environment, a 5-5 to a 5 cadence
Yeah.
that then starts. Anyway, I think this is like just mind blowing, the writing here. What goes on in the next 4 lines is just amazing. And
I'm hearing Bartok, but I'm also hearing Nature Boy, the standard.
yes, yes.
I'm also hearing Grieg in that da 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 da, the famous In the Hall of the Mountain King.
Yeah.
You can't get out of your head once you hear it. Sorry if I've given anyone in your way.
Like that bug,
Yeah. But there is so much going on. And the other thing, it's interesting, this is the first single line that we've thrown up on the screen, apart from the harmonic passage there, the Lenny Bro, which is an arpeggiated chord, really.
Yes.
You've got this huge amount of harmonic material made in a linear form. It would work on an oboe. Sound great on an oboe or a reed instrument of some kind. Yet it does work so well on guitar too.
Yes.
It really does.
And again, we see some chromaticism that we see in other pieces, even in this line.
Yeah.
There's
and even though we're
the
starting
thirds, the minor thirds becoming major.
Yeah.
The sevenths becoming major seven, the flat sevens becoming. There's a lot of that game going on in in these early pieces.
So I'll try to see that the way you're seeing it, with the minor thirds becoming major. So in the second bar, you've got the major third, E flat to G, the G to E flat, changing to a minor third, E flat to G flat, and then you get a major third, F to D. No, that's a minor third, is it? Hold on. There's a minor third, which is then changing to a second, really, the D to E, F flat. Is that right? Yeah. I'm not very good at doing this straight ahead on camera. But
yes, I mean, it's done in a way that you can basically see that and be like, this is not a harmonic thing. This is this is just a chromatic passage, Don't read too much into it. But then, when you start here... And there is it's very strong, you know what I mean? So then it's like, wow, this is a very nice...
Bar two, major third becomes minor, and then minor third becomes a diminished third. It's written as a diminished third. Yeah, flat.
Then it goes into a harmonic minor vibe, which is the main feel of this phrase. It's a harmonic minor phrase. Unquestionably, but then there is those things that are happening in the middle, and of course later on it is very much supported by the harmonic.
And we're playing detective games here a lot of the time. I questioned the A sharp in piece 1 instead of a B flat on the second last chord, the A flat major 7th chord. You'd expect a B flat, Mick writes an A sharp. Here we've got that F flat written in, and it's line direction. There's kind of other stuff going on. We've got a E flat going to B natural, where you might hear a major third with the D sharp, but it's written E flat. It's a little harder on the eyes, but it's logical, and there's some sense there, musical intention.
Yes. Also, the F, it's an F flat. It's not an E natural.
Yeah.
Which it's going down. This could be, I don't know, a seventh.
Yeah.
It's
There's a lot happening there.
There's a lot
And
happening.
Our detective story, just to not go on for hours and hours and hours, we've got the final couple of slides here, which I pull up, and we get this lovely change right at the end of the sequence of.
We have the last line of this.
This is piece number 8, and I'll get the screen share up. So at the end of piece number 8, we saw the beginning there. Here's the end, and we've been heading all that time to this glorious E major.
Right.
At the end.
Yes.
And we've got this. If you could play some of this for us. I think I've corrected a C sharp there, which was one of the corrections that we were instructed to do.
Yes. So the whole story changes from this fugue-like chromatic thing that's going on in the first lines, and it becomes an open, more orchestral structure. Yes. So it's a radical change. It almost seems like this, this is a different piece, or this is an interlude, or this is something. But going into piece 9, which I'll play a little bit.
Yeah.
Anyway, so going in there, this is basically a way to bring it up, a way to take us there towards the ending, the grand finale. And it happens through a repetition, which is, this is where we come in. This is the introduction to this part.
Yeah.
After the. But this part ends here. Sorry, I messed it up. Okay, and then it comes back. Blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the first tempo.
And it brings us to this ending. So this is kind of an indication that those pieces were meant to be one after the other. There is an order to them. There is a story. At least to some of them. To me, there's a story between the whole work. But this is a strong indication that there was a sequence.
Yeah. And there is something.
Sure if we know if these were written in a chronological order, but at least 8 and 9 seem to be very closely related back to back. And 5 and 6 are similar in the way they are like little half note gems.
Yeah.
With so much information in them. Each one playing on each one having a play on some very specific materials. Then 7 and 8 are more in the 12-tone and chromatic world. The 2 is like the probably the more symphonic piece. There's so many references we can bring in. But yes, this is the way it gets us to the end, to the last piece, which seems to be, if you dig into the later pieces, this kind of shows you why this closes the circle.
Yeah.
The cycle. Because a lot of the writing, I don't know if you agree, especially after the 15th piece in the later pieces, a lot of the writing resembles this.
Yes. It goes back
earlier
to
on,
that
but there is this like neo-baroque, neo-classical era in the later pieces. That's how they start.
Yeah.
And then we arrive to something that is way more like this.
Yeah. And we have the final bars of the piece number 9, early piece number 9. And like the Benjamin Britten Nocturnal, we have an awful lot of atonal music, beautiful, strange melodies, finally coming to a very consonant piece. Britten used an arrangement of a John Dowland song for the end of Nocturnal in E major, and very similarly we get this beautiful chordal piece in hugely resonant chords in E major for the full duration of the final page for the piece number 9, and very consonant, rarely an accidental. We've got a C natural here in the second last bar, but very few departures from E major. It's typical, that C natural, in a way. You just push the fifth a little bit, just give the fifth a nudge, and it's kind of just a little bit more touch. I should really say flattened sixth, I know, but you've got the B still there actually all the way through that.
It's sort of like a 2 or 4 minor, cadence.
Yeah. Could you play that ending for us too?
Cadence is, that ending.
Conversation up. We've gone on a long time, I know that. Beautiful, thank you.
This is like a wonderful example of the kind of writing you see that is so unique to the guitar here. Where you get to use the open strings, and you have this sort of beautiful voice leading, that is very unique to the guitar. In the end, it seems like it's a contradiction, that voice leading is very unique to the guitar. It's kind of some of the hardest things to do on the guitar,
Yeah.
But in general, I feel this piece has a piano feel to it, maybe. In sense of like in terms of the writing and the plurality of it. Of course, it's written in an open string key, because it would be almost impossible otherwise to have this this play with the voices happening. And I think it's also indicative of the idea of expansion of the instrument. I feel like of playing the way that those and the later pieces are insisting on things that are so hard on the nature of the instrument, and they're insisting to expand this into becoming a normal, daily activity for guitarists. And this is an expansion of the instruments, and this somehow relates also with, again, Soar and Segovia, and I believe, correct me, but I believe that the 20 studies were also kind of central in Segovia's teachings.
Yes.
So I would have to double check on that, but I believe there were, there was at some point that you had to go through them.
They've certainly influenced several generations of classical guitar students. I'll stress that Segovia renumbered them too, so the numbers don't correspond with Soar's original numbering system. So it's important to know that. We can get into confusion otherwise. But this looks like Fernando Soar's chord writing. It also looks very like Francisco Tarrega's chord writing. He often transcribed piano music for the guitar, and the result looked a lot like this. So we've got the guitar tradition firmly in the fore for the close of this set of early pieces.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. It is this diatonic triadic movement.
I'll direct anyone who's tired of hearing me speaking to your lovely music on YouTube, your recording of the 9 pieces. You won't see me there at all, folks, and you might enjoy it, I hope, to actually listen to these all the way through as a piece. And again, Modern Guitar Harmony should have some editions of the 9 early pieces with some extras. in the near future. I'll say thank you to Stelios once again for such an informative and whistle-stop guided tour through the 9 early pieces by Mick Goodrick, and it'll be really lovely to catch up with you again very soon. We should have some more conversations to have as we're re-editing these and putting them into the public domain. So thanks once again, and it's very much appreciated.
Thank you for hosting this. This is wonderful. I love to talk about this music, and I love to talk about it with you.
It's mutual. Thank you. Bye for now.
Bye.